there was a young guy who was working in a country in Africa in college, and he noticed that there were so many clothes in Africa that were not being used. And he thought, God, there's so many clothes in this world that are going unused. How could we use these clothes and turn them into something that people want to use and buy? So they started a social enterprise in North Carolina, he and a couple of friends, creating products out of used clothing. They're upcycling these things, right? And to drive sales before the holiday, what they did is they used a core audience and they drove traffic of that core audience to their website, their e-commerce store, and then they used the Facebook pixel to track which of those people had added one of their products to their shopping cart online. And they created a custom audience out of those people that had put a product in their cart. And then they used the lookalike audience feature on Facebook to create a 1% lookalike audience of the people who had added an item to their cart in the United States. I believe that was their targeting. And then they advertised their product catalog to this lookalike audience at the 1% level, and they tripled their sales for the holiday season. So you're going to notice I just talked about core audiences, custom audiences, lookalike audiences. I'm going to teach you how to use all of the audience features now within the Facebook for Business ecosystem. And before moving on, let's equip you with some key concepts that you're going to need to go into these next set of modules and actually start using some of these tools. So an audience is a group of Facebook profiles that will potentially receive your ads. A core audience is an audience that you build from Facebook's user data, like demographics, locations, and interests. A custom audience is a Facebook audience built through pixel event triggers, or by matching Facebook data with your data, like an email list. A lookalike audience is a group of users that are similar to one of your existing Facebook for Business audiences. An interest in Facebook advertising is a topic that Facebook's algorithms have determined a Facebook user cares about. A custom conversion is a custom pixel event on your website that can also be used to optimize with the conversion objective. An affinity score is how likely a user is to interact with an ad, profile, or page based on their previous behaviors and interests. Engagement audiences are groups of users who have interacted with your content on one or more of the Facebook family of apps. And remember, you can see all of these definitions and step-by-step tutorials as you go along, and hopefully work with me as we go and do some of these things by visiting the study guide that's associated with this course, which is at go.easel.co/F2019. So that's go.eazl.co/F2019. And you're going to notice that I talked about interests there a little bit as I introduced that concept. Now, the thing about interests are that they're a little bit unique. It doesn't mean a Facebook page, and there are some interests that are not going to deliver the results that you need. So coming up, one of the things that I'm going to teach you is how to use the Easel rule of 80 to qualify whether or not an interest is worth using in your Facebook for Business campaigns or not. Let's move on into the section. Let's get your hands dirty. So in this module, we're going to be creating a custom conversion audience, and we're also going to be creating a custom audience with something like an email list. So if you remember, a custom conversion is a custom pixel event on your website that can also be optimized for with the conversion objective. So what that means in plain English is that if you create a custom conversion, then you can basically have Facebook track people who have completed some kind of behavior on another website, like your website, or maybe within your app. And the reason that that is important is that when you're using the conversion objective, which is something that we're going to get into later in the course, you can tell Facebook, optimize the way that you deliver this ad to match
people who are a lot like the people who have already completed this custom conversion event. That's very powerful for scaling your ads and for getting those conversions towards the end of your funnel. So after you've already brought in people, you're getting some awareness, but when you want people to convert. So how do we create a custom conversion event? Well, so you're going to go up to the events manager, measure and report, and then underneath the events manager, we're going to go to custom conversions. All right, now we want to make sure that we're in the correct ad account, which we are. And then let's create a custom conversion. And the easiest way to create a custom conversion from my perspective is using the URL traffic option. So up here, this URL traffic, there are some other options, but URL based conversions are really straightforward. So how does this URL based targeting work? Well, for example, I'm going to switch over here to this other tab. So you're going to see here that this is the page where somebody can complete a purchase on Easel's course website, right? And so this is basically that they've added this to their cart. All they need to do is enter their checkout information and then pay and enroll in the course. So the important thing that I want you to see here is that here is the URL associated with this behavior. So for example, this checkout is a URL element that we could use, or maybe this number. And so when we go back to this custom conversions event, we can do things like say any URL that contains the word checkout. And then when we go to the category option, we can select the category as add to cart. And then now we can just name it. And optionally, you can add a description. And let's get into a couple of other options. So now if you're going to create a purchase event, then you need to create that URL targeting up here, and then you're going to change this option to purchase, and you can also assign values to your purchases if that's helpful for your business. Obviously, you can track that stuff internally, but you can also have Facebook track that stuff as well so that you can tabulate how much Facebook basically predicts you are getting in terms of value for your conversions. And let's build in an additional element of your skills here, which is additional targeting. So you see here that this is only one rule up here, but let's add another rule. So for example, let's say that the must also match that the URL doesn't contain something like career hacking. So if we take this element of the URL, and then we go back here and we say doesn't contain career hacking. So now we're getting people that have gone to add something to their cart, but it wasn't that particular course. So that's the way that we create a URL-based custom conversion event. And note that you're going to need a minimum of roughly 500 to really more like 1,000 conversions for Facebook's optimization engine to be meaningful around your conversion event. All right, so you just learned how to create a custom conversion. Now let's create a custom audience from your website traffic. And there are a couple of ways to do this, and I'm going to show you the one based on your pixel area of your Facebook for Business infrastructure. And before we move on, remember a custom audience is a Facebook audience built through pixel event triggers or by matching Facebook data with your data, like an email list. So let's focus on creating a custom audience from pixel triggers. Remember, you can follow along with me in the study guide with step-by-step instructions for everything that I'm doing so that you can do this along with me. So where we're going to be, we go to menu, and then under the events manager, we're going to click on pixels, and then we're going to click on the right pixel. And then we're going to click on create custom audience. And then there are many options here, but let's use this visitors by time spent. And we're just going to leave it at the top 25% in the last 30 days. And again, there's some additional options here as well. And then we're going to name our audience something like top 25% engaged audience, and then we would create it, but I've already created a similar audience, so I'm not going to actually do that. But that's how you're creating a custom audience based on activity on your Facebook pixel. All right, now let's move to another area, your final element, the skill that you're building here in this module, which is creating a audience from something like a customer file. So this time we're going to be working under the menu, assets, audiences option. And then let's click create audience, and we're going to create a custom audience. and we're going to select from a customer file. And you're going to notice that there's a couple of options here. The one that's probably used more often is basically that you upload something. So essentially what we're going to do is add customers from your own file or copy and paste data. And then here you're just going to be uploading an export of your email list. And we've already done something similar, so I'm not going to do that right now. And then if you are connected with MailChimp, because you're using MailChimp for email marketing, then obviously this is a way to make it maybe a bit easier. So you just go here to import from MailChimp. You're going to have to log into MailChimp, and then you can basically use your MailChimp lists automatically to import those into Facebook. And then Facebook will match the users that have an email address on your email list with the people who use the same email address for their Facebook or Instagram profiles. And I'm just going to make a quick note here that with increasing internet privacy, you're going to have to accept terms of service that you basically agree that you have people's actual permission to contact them. And this is related to new data security laws, privacy laws happening in many places across the world. So let's just wrap up this with how to view your audiences. So if we just kind of X out of all this here and we go back to our asset library, audiences, which is where we are now. So I'll just click on that. All right, so now you're going to see the different audiences that you have. And I'm just going to show you here that you can customize your columns, and you might want to customize especially by size sometimes, so that you can see how many people are in a particular audience, because the minimum audience size that you can promote to is about 1,000 users, but you probably want a lot more than that. So anytime that you're creating these audiences, your filters must be broad enough so that you're bringing in around 1,000 plus people into a particular audience so that they can actually be useful. All right, so before you move on to a case study next, I want you to build your skills around lookalike audiences. This is a really important function and something that we're going to be getting into later in the course, especially when we use the CRED system for scaling up your ad activities and ad projects. And so if you remember, a lookalike audience is a group of users that are similar to one of your existing Facebook for Business audiences. So how do we create a lookalike audience? Well, you're going to go to create audience, and then we're going to basically click lookalike audience, and then we need a source. So this source is usually one of your audiences that you've uploaded. So for example, here is an old list of Easel newsletter subscribers. So we could select that audience, and then we can also calibrate it by location. And most importantly, we want to calibrate it by audience size. So when you start at these lower numbers like 1 and 2, you're going to see that basically Facebook is going to make it a more precise match, and you're going to get fewer people, but still 2.2 million is pretty big. And if you notice, if we go up to 9, which means it's not going to be quite as close of a match, but you're going to have a much, much bigger audience, then that's how you're going to basically need to work that tool to meet your objectives. Usually, in my experience, for the campaigns that we're running, somewhere between 1 and 3 is pretty good. 3, for example, means that we're getting 6.5 million people. That's a lot of people to target. And then you just create that audience, and now you've created a lookalike audience from a list of your newsletter subscribers, and you would know how to create that custom audience from a previous module.
All right, so now we're going to be getting into a case study, and I think that this will be exciting for you. So this is a case study about a company called Hippie Runner. Hippie Runner was created by a personal trainer, and over 4 years, they used Facebook ads primarily as their main promotion mechanism, and they grew their sales by 75 times using Facebook ads. And you can find a copy of the Hippie Runner case study in the study guide if you want to check that out. But I'll tell you a little bit about it. This is kind of the classic Facebook marketing mix, right? So the way it starts is that this person who is a personal trainer who started Hippie Runner they went and talked to people and they asked them, okay, who might be the best customer for this product? And the product is a headband that is great for working out. It's this headband that has cool phrases on it, motivational phrases on it, and cool images. And they found that their most receptive audience were women between the ages of 22 and 44 who are interested in fitness. So they built a core audience based on good interest targeting. Now remember, a core audience is an audience that you build from Facebook's user data, like demographics, locations, and interests, right? So then what they did is they went in and used interest targeting to build this core audience of females between the ages of 22 and 44 that were interested in fitness. And you're gonna learn more about how to find really great interests that you can use to make these core audiences meaningful and have the highest potential to convert into paying customers. And then what they did is they ran ads, traffic ads, and you're gonna learn about the traffic objective later in the course. They ran traffic ads to take people from Facebook to their website. And while they were doing that, what they were doing is they were building a custom audience of people who were cart abandoners. So these are people who had visited the page where you would have put the headband in your shopping cart, but they didn't get to the purchase page. So then they first remarketed to these cart abandoners and said, hey, you checked out our stuff, here's a discount, we want you to be a paying customer. The other thing they did is they used lookalike audiences to create an audience that looked like these cart abandoners. And that's another tool that we're going to be getting into in this course, is creating a lookalike audience. And so they basically use this lookalike audience as a way to expand their audience. So they started off, just to summarize, by talking to people. They found out who their highest potential audience was. They used interest targeting to create a core audience of Facebook people who were like the people that they were targeting. They drove traffic with a traffic ad advertising to that core audience. And then they built a custom audience of people who abandoned their carts from their traffic ads. And then they built a lookalike audience to create an audience that looked like the cart abandoners while they created a remarketing campaign to the cart abandoners. And that was the marketing mix that they used for a long time. And again, you can find out more about this case study in the study guide.
Who is receiving your ads? That's one of the most important questions that you want to ask yourself, and one of the biggest opportunities created by using advertising through Facebook for Business. So in this module, you're going to learn how to use the easel rule of 80 for great Facebook and Instagram audiences. So when you target a group of people with an interest, what exactly are you getting? How do you choose the right interest? Well, remember, an interest in Facebook advertising is a topic that Facebook's algorithms have determined a Facebook user cares about. First, it's important to note that an interest might have the same name as a Facebook or Instagram profile, but that doesn't mean that your ads will only target people who have liked that particular profile. Facebook's technology determines whether someone is interested in a topic using a number of factors, not just the fact that they have liked a Facebook page or an Instagram profile. So how do you find a good interest to target? Use Easel's Rule of 80. Easel's Rule of 80 is really two things that you should check before using an interest in your Facebook for Business targeting. The first check is that 80% of that interest's related categories should be aligned with the same interest. This can be hard to do, but as close as you can get while keeping the audience somewhat large is the way to go. The second check is that the affinity score of the pages related to that interest should be a minimum of 80x. A great affinity score can get up to 800 or more.
For example, when you use Facebook's Audience Insights tool to target the interest JavaScript, the related category links are all over the place. However, if you target code.org, you'll see that the related category links are almost all closely related, and that the affinity score of related pages is much larger than 80. Finally, note that you can create audiences through both positive and negative selection. So for example, you could target people who live in Miami and are interested in code.org and exclude people who like coffee. There are infinite possibilities. So in summary, one of the most important features of Facebook advertising is your ability to build unique and specific audiences. An interest is a topic that algorithms have determined a Facebook, Instagram, or Messenger user cares about. You can combine interests, demographics, pixel events, and other characters to create audiences. Use Easel's rule of 80. 80% related category pages and an affinity score of 80 plus on all related pages when picking an interest to use.
The thing that's awesome about Facebook is that when you can create these audiences that are super focused, you can communicate with people in a way that they can understand what you're saying, because you know that the audience that you're sending your messages to through Facebook for Business ads has certain characteristics because you've designed it that way in many cases. And basically what I'm talking about here is the use of interest targeting on Facebook. So an interest in Facebook advertising is a topic that Facebook's algorithms have determined a Facebook user or Instagram user cares about. So how do you find an interest that beats the Easel rule of 80? Let's do it. Let's just go through this in an example. So what we're going to be using here is, if you go to the menu, plan, Audience Insights part of Facebook for Business, let's look at finding a good interest. So we're going to click on everyone in Facebook. And let's, just for a sample, let's check out what happens when we look up fitness and wellness. And I encourage you to follow along with me. Remember, you can see all of this step by step in the study guide. All right, so as we start typing, it's going to come up here as an audience. We're going to click off this, and then let's select page likes. All right, now if you look at the top categories, this is what we want to start looking at first. If you remember, we want these related pages here to be similar to fitness and wellness. That's the way that we know that the audience that we are using, the interest group that we are going to be using to build our audience, is really super targeted towards people who are interested in fitness and wellness. Now, the reason that this isn't great is because if you look at the related pages here, a lot of these have nothing to do with fitness and wellness. Home improvement, personal finance, cooking, books. That's not fitness and wellness. So basically, if we use this fitness and wellness as an interest in whatever we're doing related to our audiences with Facebook for Business ads, not only are we going to get people who are interested in fitness and wellness, but we might also get people who are interested in furniture or mobile phones, and that's not what we want. So what might be something a little bit better? Let's try something like CrossFit and see what comes up. If you don't know what CrossFit is, it's basically this hardcore way of working out in the United States, and I'll show you how it works. I'm sure CrossFit happens outside the United States too, but that's just my experience. All right, so now that we've done CrossFit, you're going to see that the related page likes are a little bit better, right? Eat to Perform, vitamins, UFC, which is like boxing, but even more hardcore, NFL, so stuff like that. And then when we look down here at the affinity scores, they're okay. These related pages here have a decent affinity score, but we were looking for something that's at least 80 or higher. So one thing that I noticed here is that one of the top related pages is this Rogue Fitness. So let's see if we can use that as an interest and how many people are in that group. So we're going to click off CrossFit, and this is really important, so stay with me here. Rogue Fitness can be used as an interest. So we're going to click on that. All right, so now that we're looking at Rogue Fitness, and you're going to notice that I clicked off of our additional interests here because you can keep building and building and building, but we don't want that. We just want to find singular interests and what the related page likes are and the affinity scores. So if you look at the related page likes, this looks a lot better. We're looking at basically people that are almost everything is related to fitness here. And then if we go down here and look at the page likes and the affinity score, it is through the roof. So for example, we look at Rogue Fitness as a page. So this has a very large audience, 109 people here. And then on Facebook, 106 million. That's a lot. And the affinity score is very, very, very high. So this is a much better interest than CrossFit, and CrossFit was much better than fitness and wellness. So this is the way that we find really great interests that we use in our audience targeting. So what we're basically going to do is just take note of the interest, and then we're going to set up and save our actual audiences using these interests when we launch ads. So we're going to be doing things like creating demographic audiences that we blend with interests, or we can use interests as negative targeting. And those are the kind of things that you're going to be learning coming up. All right, I'm so excited that you're learning all these awesome Facebook features. I hope that you're feeling even more empowered as you go along. One of the newest features on the platform is basically, you can think of this as on-platform remarketing. And basically what we're going to be getting into here are engagement audiences. So what do I mean by on-platform remarketing? Well, in my experience, when people are using a social media platform like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, one of the hardest things to do is to get people to click on something because they know that they're going to be leaving the platform. Can you imagine, like, last time that you were using Facebook, maybe you were just relaxing, you were scrolling through your news feed, and you just thought, maybe this is interesting, but I don't really want to go and dive into another website right now because I'm using Facebook. So getting people to make that click can be a hard way to create an audience that is the next step down in your funnel. You know what I mean? It's people that currently, if you're using your pixel to do that, then the only way that you're going to be able to track people who took an action but using your pixel is if they visit your website or your app or whatever. And in this case, we're going to be able to use on-platform elements to retarget people. So for example, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be working in the menu assets audiences area again. And essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a audience that is related to something that people have done on the platform related to our content. So not off the platform, but on the platform. So we're going to go to create audience. So let's do a custom audience. And this is a new feature again. And what we're going to be doing here is engagement. And so, for example, one of the easiest ways to do this here is people who have engaged with your Facebook or Instagram business profiles. So let's just go and click here. We'll say Instagram business profile. And then so now you're going to be able to bring up the targeting for people who have engaged with your business, let's say in the past 30 days or whatever. And we're just going to go back and I'm going to show you another option. Another thing that is very useful is the video-based engagement audience. So if you're, for example, using the awareness or video views objective, and these are objectives that we're going to be getting into very soon, you can promote a video to people. And then you can create an engagement audience of the people who have viewed different links of your video. So for example, people who viewed 95% of your video, you can be pretty confident that they're aware at least of what you are trying to tell them about. Now you can create an audience of these folks and use that for retargeting. So since this is a relatively new feature, it's something that we're going to be experimenting with at Easel over the next year or two, and we'll keep you updated on that in future versions of this course. But I wanted to make you aware of this very powerful tool of the engagement audience.
Great. Before we move on, I want to wrap with 3 key takeaways from this section. The first one is that not all interests are that useful within Facebook for Business. So you need to make sure that you're using the Easel rule of 80 to find quality interests that you use for targeting. Now, another thing that I want to remind you about is that when you're going for conversion, custom audiences are your friend. and custom conversions will help you. And we'll get into that a little bit later as we look at setting up objectives that align with your goals. Now, the final thing that I want to remind you of is that engagement audiences are a new feature, and it's pretty cool. And let me talk about this for a second. So the thing about engagement audiences is that essentially you're creating an audience of people who have elected to enter your funnel on the platform. With the Pixel, you need somebody to visit your platform, whether that's your website or your app or whatever, for them to be entered into a custom audience that you can use, right? They have to leave Facebook, click on something, and then get triggered, and now they get put in a group. The thing is, sometimes when people are on a social media platform, they don't want to click off the site, but they're happy to leave a like, or they're happy to make a comment, right? They're happy to join your event. Those types of audiences are ways that you can start building a remarketing audience in a way that for some people will lower the barrier to them entering into your marketing funnel. For some people, clicking off of the site is something that they're not willing to do. So engagement audiences, which are a new feature, are very powerful, and I'm definitely paying attention in the future to how we can use engagement audiences really successfully. All right, now next up, we're going to look at robots. We're going to look at Facebook robots, and particularly how you can use the dynamic creative feature to have Facebook automatically test different creative elements, images, headlines, text, newsfeed descriptions, all that stuff, so that you can build ads that work without having to manage a billion different tests. In this section, we're going to be focusing on developing your skills around creating ads that work. We call this creative. Now, I remember one time when I was interviewing a digital marketing leader, a growth hacker in Edmonton, Canada. His name was Chris, and I remember he was talking about all his staff and what they did. And basically, when they have a client that they're running social ads for, they would have 500 or even 1,000 ads working at any given time because they're constantly testing all these variables. Does that image work? Does this headline work? Do those keywords work? All that stuff, right? Imagine if a robot could do all that for you. How much more productive could you be? How much faster could you find an ad that works? Well, I'm about to teach you a way that you can use robots to do that type of thing. And it's called dynamic creative. So dynamic creative is Facebook's process of combining different combinations of each creative element of your ad and then showing you what works best. So when we talk about creative elements, again, images, videos, anything that is one of those variables in the ad that you're about to deploy. Now, we're going to actually be doing this together, so I created some practice files that you can download so that you can follow along with me and build your intuition without having to build all your own images and create all your own text and things like that. And you can find these practice files at go.easel.co/2019pf. So that is go.easel.co/2019pf. And you also have a template for finding the right image sizes for images for Instagram, for Facebook Canvas, which we're going to be looking at a little bit here in the coming modules, and also for your typical Facebook ads, right? Because if you remember, images on Instagram are better when they're square. Facebook, they're better at this dimension. Facebook Canvas, that dimension. And so that file is at go.easel.co/fbads template. And you're going to see that on the screen, go.eazl.co/fbads So we're going to be building your skills creating ads here because the goal is to create ads and test them, and the ones that work, we scale those. Let's dive right in.
Every ad that you set up with Facebook for Business has creative elements that you have to create, like text, an image or a video, and a headline. And Facebook for Business has a feature called Dynamic Creative that uses machine learning to combine up to 30 independent creative variables in your ad in different ways. And then you can see the results and find out which combinations work best. Specifically, Dynamic Creative is Facebook's process of creating different combinations of each creative element of your ad and showing you what works best. So, for example, say Ramit wants to create new ads for his e-commerce site, and he wants to see which image-text combinations get the highest click-through rate from people like Jane, a young lawyer in Singapore. He might use an image of a tablet, one of a smartphone, and one of a laptop, and then write one headline that says free 1-year warranty and another that says new models for 2020. Then he launched a campaign with an ad that's using Facebook Dynamic Creative to test combinations of all 3 variables and then check the results. Then Ramit finds that the best combination for Jane's audience is the headline that says new models for 2020 and the smartphone image that he used.
All right, in this case study, we're going to talk about Weight Watchers and Dynamic Creative. So if you don't know what Weight Watchers is, it's a very popular dieting service. It blends, from what I know of the service, sort of counseling and dieting groups and social interaction with low-calorie options for food. And they were using Facebook ads to sell their products. And the way that they were doing this testing before Dynamic Creative was all manual. And so doing manual testing of lots and lots of different headlines and images and different ways to advertise to people, we're talking about thousands of different combinations, they basically found out that food combined with social occasions was the best advertising mix. So they wanted to display the food with images and then talk about a social occasion that was related to that food, and they found that their audience responded well to that mix. But that still begs the question, right? For Weight Watchers, what kinds of foods do best and what social occasions do best, right? So for example, here are some examples of the social copy that they tested. Kids' birthday party, we can help you manage tempting moments. Girls' night out doesn't have to be cheat night. So those are social experiences, right? Kids' parties, girls' nights out. And then they wanted to know which of their foods were best mixed with those headlines, like low-calorie pizza replacements, low-calorie donut replacements, and low-calorie cupcakes. And what they found out when Facebook for Business rolled out the Dynamic Creative tool is that they could use these test headlines about the tempting moments or the girls' night out with these different food groups to find out which combination worked best. And what they found is that the girls' night out doesn't have to be cheat night with the pizza image did really well. And so the new combination improved Weight Watchers conversions by about 190%. And importantly, it enabled them to reduce the time that it took to find their winning combination from 8 weeks to 2 weeks. That's a pretty big deal. So basically, they're able to build successful advertising campaigns much more quickly. And you can find a link in the study guide to this full case study. So just check that out in the further study link in the study guide.
All right, I'm so excited that you're building your skills with Dynamic Creative. Let's build your skills by you actually doing it. So as we build, you're going to notice that you have practice files available for you so that you don't have to do all this stuff to actually practice this stuff. We've created these files so that it's easy for you to make your first Dynamic Creative Elements test and kind of build your intuition around this stuff. So the practice files are available at go.easel.co/2019pf, and you'll see that link here on the screen. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working in the menu, and then we're going to go to the Create and Manage column, go down to Ads Manager. And it's important to note while this loads that as of the creation of this course, Dynamic creative is available for these objectives. And so I'll show you what I mean here. So if we create a new campaign, you're going to notice that this offers us all these different objectives. And if you've been in Facebook advertising, you know about this stuff. And if you're new to it, we're going to be diving into objectives very soon. But you see there's all these different objectives. Well, dynamic creative is available for brand awareness, reach, traffic, app installs, video views, lead generations, and conversions. And this is something that you can see in the study guide, where you're going to see specifically which objectives this is available for. So another note is that you're going to need to be in the quick creation way of creating campaigns, not the guided creation. And this option to switch is going to be up here in the upper right hand corner. So this is important. You're only going to be able to access dynamic creative as of the recording of this course if you're in the quick creation workflow. So let's set up a new campaign. We're going to set traffic as the objective, which is the default here for us. And let's name it. We're going to name it US Technicians Dynamic Creative Test. And then we're going to go down and we're going to name our ad set. And just a note here on how we're naming our ad set. The ad set is where you define things like the budget and also the audience. So I usually like to name my ad sets based on the audience that I'm going to be promoting the different ads in that ad set to. And then we're going to go down here and then we're going to name our ad, and let's name it Dynamic Creative Test. And then we're going to click Save to Draft. And then let's set the campaign spending limit here at $100. And so notice that this is for the entire campaign. So even if you define different budgets for your ad sets, it's going to make sure that all of your ad sets combined don't spend more than $100. So kind of the campaign spending limit is at the top. Ad sets are below that at the, it's going to pull from your entire campaign spending limit there. So now let's click on ad set in the upper right. And then let's toggle this dynamic creative feature here, and we're going to select continue. And then down here, let's switch this to a lifetime budget. We'll just maybe make this $100. And I just want you to note here that you're probably going to need to get around 100,000 impressions if you want statistically significant results from your dynamic creative tests. So when you're doing this stuff for important advertising campaigns that you really want to invest in versus little tests, it may cost you, $300 or $400 depending on the market that you're targeting and how expensive it is to advertise to them. So we're going to be building more audiences in the next section, but for now, let's go ahead and select our audience. All right, so this is the audience that I'm going to be using. Here are the characteristics, and I saved this audience from a previous campaign, and we're going to be building more audiences in the coming sections, so you don't need to worry about that now. Just let's get into creating the ads. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to go up here, and then we're going to see that we have one ad. And before we do that, I wanted to share with you that I actually started this campaign here on July 23rd. I set the end date on July 26th because we wanted to make sure that the ad budget was used pretty quickly so that we could get our test results pretty fast. All right, as we get started here setting up the ad, I just want to warn you that sometime you're going to see the option for dynamic ads. Dynamic ads are different than dynamic creative, so don't click the dynamic ads option if you see that. So the first thing we're going to do is add our images. So we basically go down here. We're going to select the dynamic creative test. Then we're going to select our images. And here are our 3 images, and you have these in the practice files folder. Let's confirm those. And then now let's add in your 3 above add text creative variables. And if you want to, you could use what you created in the assignments that was in the previous module in this section. So the ones that we're going to be using, we're going to be testing the convenience, career advancement, and return on investment tests. So that's going to go up here in the text field. All right, so as we put in our first one, we're just going to click this add button, and then let's put in our other 2. All right, so now we have 3 different text variables. So now let's add in our destination URL. And if you look in the study guide, you can use the URL that I've set up, which is go.easel.co/ssmd. All right, so now we're starting to see a preview, which is kind of exciting. So now let's add in our different headlines that we're going to be testing. And just like above, we're just going to click add to open up the box for us to add in different creative elements that we can test. And then now I'm going to do the newsfeed link descriptions the same way. Great, so now you can see either different variations, and you can also see how it'll look in the different places that you can deploy your ad to. So for example, the Instagram feed is going to look a little bit different than something like maybe the audience network. All right, so let's X out of this, and then we're going to go down, and then let's make sure that our pixel is activated, and then we'll click publish, and congratulations, you just set up your first dynamic creative test. All right, now through the magic of video production and course designing, I have completed this dynamic creative test and I can show you the results now. So let's build your skills here on not only looking at your results, but also how to use this breakdown feature within Facebook ads so that you can kind of go deeper into all the different things that are available as data points from your test. So to start with, let's look at customizing your columns and saving a view. I think this is really useful. So you're going to look at, by default, you see that this is kind of the way that this thing is set up, but I think that it's better if you customize your columns in a different way. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to, first we need to be selecting the right campaign and ad group. So I'll show you how that works. So if we go to campaigns, then what we're going to do is make sure that we click, and I've actually named my dynamic creative tests, and then we want to select the right ad group. So there's our US Technicians Without College. So just make sure that this little check mark is there, and then let's check mark this one. All right. And then we're going to go to columns, and then let's go to customize columns. And then so under performance, I suggest that you click impressions, clicks, CPC, and CTR. So you're going to see that if we go to performance here, I'm going to unselect all of these guys. And then let's do impressions, clicks, CPC, and CTR. And then I'm going to keep deselecting. And you notice that you can actually deselect over here. So I'll deselect budget, ends, schedule, and error. So now I've got my 4 there. And then so if we click apply, then you're going to get this really simple view that I think is really helpful. And if you want to, you can save it as a preset and then click the name. I'm going to cancel because I've already saved it as a preset. So I selected it as, all right, so this is my dynamic creative view. So you're going to see here that it got a lot simpler in terms of what it displayed to me. And I think that that's really helpful. You can always customize it as a way that works for you. And then so first, I'm going to show you how to see what Facebook thinks was the best combination. So what you're going to do is click on the breakdown here and then go to buy dynamic creative asset and then go to combination. All right, so that's kind of interesting. You can kind of hover over it and it says that this was your best combination, but I think that's pretty simple. Let's look at some things that are a little bit more interesting. So for example, how could you find out which regions responded well to your ad? Well, so first of all, let's go to the breakdowns here, and then we want to clear all breakdowns or else it'll keep building additional filters. So clear all breakdowns, and then let's go to by delivery and region. Okay, now that's kind of interesting. So let's click CTR. All right, now you're going to see that Nevada and Colorado had a much higher CTR rate than other places. It looks like Nebraska did pretty well too. So that might be interesting in terms of targeting where you want to be deploying your ads most. You can kind of be searching for the most successful audiences, or you can also just click it again, and then you're going to be able to see which regions where it didn't work. So you can see where there were some impressions but no responses. All right, so let's go here and let's clear these breakdowns again. And then now let's find out how to view breakdowns by multiple filters. So let's use 2 in this case. So what we're going to do is see which image worked best for each age group. So we're going to be in the breakdown menu again. Let's go to by delivery. Let's click on age. And then we're going to go to by dynamic creative asset down here, and we're going to click image. So now you're seeing which images were most successful for different age groups. So if we click by CTR again, we'll sort from the best to the worst. So it looks like, for example, from 25 through 34, this was the best image, kind of by far, was this image with the guy painting. And this stuff can be kind of helpful, right? All right. So if you want to see some further study about using this type of stuff, the breakdowns feature and dynamic creative, there's a link for you in the study guide.
All right, in this section, we built your skills around ad creative. And we're talking about the different elements of your ads. You learned how to use the dynamic creative feature within Facebook for Business, and there are a few key takeaways here. So the first one is just that dynamic creative ads are launched as ads within specific ad groups within specific campaigns. So it's totally feasible that you have a campaign that you're starting off with, and you have an ad group which contains your audience, for example, and then you're testing with dynamic creative which ad is going to work for this audience, and then as you're going to see later in the course, you take what's working and then you scale it up. All right, now another thing is that what I've noticed using this in practice is that the more variables that you have in your dynamic creative test, the more impressions you need to get statistically significant results. Because if you think about it, if you actually have 12 variables in your dynamic creative test, that's a lot of combinations that Facebook is going to test for you. So it's actually cheaper and quicker to get results if you keep your variables limited to things that matter. Now, what are we talking about with things that matter? Particularly if you have big questions, like you want to test really distinct variables within an ad element. You want to test an image versus that image, or versus these two images. Or you want to test, is this type of message versus that one and that one? Which one works, right? And also remember that you use the breakdown filter within the Ads tab so that you can look deeply into your dynamic creative and learn not only just about which elements worked, but also which regions responded and a lot more. So next up, we're going to be using the folder where you have all of those practice files, and we're going to build your ad deploying muscles, deploying objective-driven ads by actually doing it together. Let's go on in the course. Have you ever been explaining something to someone and you explained it many times and they didn't get it, and you said, all right, why don't we just do it together, right? And then you did it together, all they had to do was do it once and they got it, right? That's the way that we work sometimes, right? And so using that momentum, that train of thought, what we're going to be doing here in this section is building your skills launching Facebook ads by doing things together. I encourage you to follow along with me as we go through these exercises of deploying ads and using some of the features on the platform, because the truth of the matter is that there's so many objectives, there's many different features, and what you're going to have to do is figure out the combination that works for you to bring people into your funnel, to convert them, to expand your audience. And the best way, in my experience, to build your skills is to just do this stuff together. So before we move on, there are a few concepts that you're going to need to know before we dive into first the animated modules that show you the different objectives and what they're for and some of the features, and then we start to actually do this stuff together. An objective is the goal of a Facebook ads campaign, which is selected when you launch a campaign. This objective will impact how your ad is delivered. Creative Hub is a place to find examples, develop mock-ups, and export ads in all formats that can be launched through Facebook for Business. The Audience Network is a network of apps and sites where you can deploy your Facebook ads and reach more people. The Canvas is an instantly loading full-screen experience that acts like an on-platform landing page. It can also include videos, photos, text, links, and more. An offer is a discount that a user can save and then redeem virtually or at a physical location that can be delivered with an ad. All right, so there are a couple of animated videos that are short and fun in the easel style that are going to dive you right into these concepts and some of the features, and then we're going to be doing this stuff together.
Everything in Facebook's ad ecosystem is about what you want people to do when they see your ads. The campaign objective is important because it will impact how your ad is delivered to Facebook users. For example, if you select the traffic objective, the ad engine will target users who are more likely to click on your link. If you select the reach objective, it will show your ad to as many people as possible. Facebook sees ads as a three-part funnel: awareness, then consideration, then conversions. And each of their objectives is centered around one of these three steps. To build awareness, you can launch brand awareness and reach campaigns. To get consideration, you can launch traffic, app installs, video views, lead generation, post engagement, page likes, event responses, and messenger campaigns. To convert customers, you can launch conversions, catalog sales, and store visits campaigns. In practice, most successful advertising projects will combine multiple objectives at different steps. For example, you might use an engagement ad, build a custom audience based on who engaged with your ad, and then promote a conversion ad to that audience that engaged with your first ad. When you launch a campaign, you pick your objective and then define things like your audience, budget, and schedule in an ad set that's part of your campaign. Then you'll design individual ads to run in each of your ad sets. These are the main ad formats: image, video, sliding carousels of photos or videos, slideshows, product collections, or Facebook Messenger prompts. So in summary, Facebook for Business requires you to pick an objective for each ad that you run on the network. Facebook's predictive algorithms will optimize the delivery of your ads based on which objective you choose. Many successful Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger ad projects involve multiple objectives. After you select an objective, you create ad groups, and then each ad group has ads that run in it. If you're going to deliver results, you need to know how to use the most important features that Facebook for Business offers, and many of these are set up inside your ad sets. So let's get you in the know fast with the top 5 features that you need to know. At number 5 is custom placements. Anytime you advertise, Facebook can customize where your ads appear on the Facebook network. For example, on Facebook's news feed, or on the right side column of Facebook, or on mobile only, or on the desktop news feed and on Facebook for mobile. And there are also these placement options for Instagram, Messenger, and the Audience Network. At number 4 is custom scheduling. If you set your ad set to lifetime budget, you can schedule when your ads are delivered. For example, maybe your cafe wants to advertise that it offers pour-over coffees every Saturday morning, only until noon. At number 3 is location-based targeting. Any ad that you deploy can target people based on where they are. By default, you'll target everyone in an area, but you can also target only people who live there, or people who are just traveling through. For example, you might want to send an ad to a traveler when they arrive at your local airport or train station. At number 2 is dynamic creative. Dynamic creative is Facebook's process of creating different combinations of each creative element of your ad and showing you what works best. You can activate dynamic creative for an ad by enabling this option in an ad set. At number 1 is detailed targeting. Targeting is one of Facebook for Business's best features. In your ad set, you can narrow or exclude users to create an audience. When you use the narrow option, you're telling the platform that all users must match both A and B. When you use the exclude option, you're telling the platform that all users must match A and exclude B. Now it's time for you to test your knowledge. If you wanted to advertise to people attending a sports event to tell them that there was a party after the game, what features might be involved? And if you wanted to display ads to people on Facebook, but not Instagram or Messenger, what feature would you use? Now pause the video. The answers will be displayed in a moment. The first answer might be custom scheduling and location-based targeting. The second answer would be placements.
All right, now I'm gonna teach you some of this stuff by actually doing it with you. So if you remember, you have access to a folder that has all these practice files so that you don't have to create all these images and things yourself, so that you can build these skills of yours right now without having to get into all this image design and all that type of stuff. And you can follow along step by step with me in the study guide. So remember, you can find the study guide at go.easel.co/F2019. go.eazl.co/F2019, and the practice files are at go.easel.co/2019pf, go.eazl.co/2019pf. And we're going to be using these step-by-step instructions exactly as in the study guide, and we're going to reference the file names that are in those folders. So let's move on. Let's build your skills by doing this stuff.
All right, now let's build your skills by actually doing this stuff. So what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna be setting up a carousel Instagram ad in Creative Hub. And so you're gonna be learning a lot of these new features, including Creative Hub and things like that. So to start with, we're actually gonna be moving away from the Ads Manager, and let's go over here. We're gonna go to All Tools. Under Plan, let's go to Creative Hub, and we're gonna be creating a mockup in the Instagram carousel format. So we're going to go to Create Mockup here, and you can follow along with me in the study guide step by step so that you can build your skills. And so let's go here. We're in the carousel for Instagram option. So we're going to select our Instagram profile. There we go. All right. So we're going to start with the text, and so we want to highlight the reward in the text that the user, the person who's receiving your ad, might get. That's a great way to use text. So we're going to be using the following couple of sentences here. All right, so you can read what we are going to be using as our text here. Reward yourself with artisan coffee and a tasty treat for under $6. Come into Gaslight Coffee and start your Saturday morning off right. Wow, we're gonna say Saturday morning. Well, that's gonna build your skills here in a second on scheduling the deployment of your ads, which can be really effective because you can imagine if you can make sure that a certain message is gonna be delivered at a certain time, that can be really powerful. So now let's add in images and the additional text that we need to use. And you're gonna note that the images tagged Gaslight in the practice folder, which is the link that you're gonna see here on the screen. Those are the images that you can use so that you can just practice this stuff without having to create all these images yourself. So you're going to be uploading the images in the practice folder, but I'm going to actually just add them because these are images that I have already uploaded. So I added that image. Now I'm going to click on this number 2. I'm going to select another image, and then number 3, and I'm going to select another image. All right, now you're going to see if you click here to the right, you're going to see your images appear just like it's going to appear in the Instagram feed. So now we need headlines for each of these, and in the study guide, you can find the headlines that we are going to be using so that you can follow along, and you can just go ahead and put these in yourself and build your intuition. All right, so you're going to notice here that for each of these different options, so for example, the coffee, this is going to be the same headline as the one that's up here, but that's okay because you're going to see that this is only a carousel for Instagram, and so it's only going to display one of these. It's not going to display a headline in addition to this text. And if you look at, as we go over to number 2, the donut, and you go right here, you're going to see that this is a little bit different. The text here, it highlights the donut, and then if you click here, you're going to see that this text here around the cinnamon roll, so this is going to appear underneath the cinnamon roll. So then now let's just make the URL on each of these cards gaslightcoffeeroasters.com, and then let's build your skills with calls to action. So let's change this to C menu. All right, so now let's save this. Oop, I forgot to put in the see more URL. Let's put that in there. All right. So now let's save it. And now I'm going to edit this name up here, and then let's call it Saturday Morning Insta Special. Great, our mockup has been successfully saved. I hope you're following along with me. So now let's import this. We're going to agree, and then we want to copy this URL. All right, great. All right, now let's keep building your skills, and we're going to be using something that you learned in a previous section here. We're going to create a lookalike audience from a custom audience. So we're going to go to the menu, assets, and then we're going to go to audiences. And then we're going to create a new audience here. And then let's create a lookalike audience. And then we're going to create this from the top 25 most engaged audience. And then let's set this in the United States. And we're going to set this really big at 10 because we want this to be the most people possible, and I'll show you why next. So we'll create this audience. I've already created this somewhere else, but let's go ahead and create it. So now let's open a new tab. See, it says I've already created it. So we're going to close this one. I'm going to open a new tab, and I've still got my URL copied from my mockup, and it's going to be something short like that. Paste it into the browser. All right, so let's select the right ad account. We'll use Easel's ad account, and then we'll click import. Open Ads Manager. All right, so let's change the campaign type to reach, and then we're going to name it, and you can follow along in the study guide here, but we're going to name it. All right, so we're going to name it Gaslight Saturday Morning Insta Special. The ad set's going to be called Top Engaged Lookalikes in Logan Square. And this is why we made our lookalike so big. And I'll show you that here in a second. And then it's going to go ahead and have the mock-up there. Then we're going to name it for our ad set, Saturday Morning Insta Special. And then let's save it to a draft. All right, now let's go and click on this one ad set here in the upper right-hand corner. We're going to select a lifetime budget, which is going to be really important for us. And we'll set it at $250. And then let's set the end date as March 31st, 2019. And you can set this to whatever you want just to build your skills here. The most important thing here is we're going to run the ads on a schedule. And this is super important because we don't want people to receive our ads about Saturday morning on a Tuesday afternoon. So let's go ahead and start calibrating when we want to do this. And so here's the challenge for you. How are you going to set this to Saturdays from 6 a.m. to noon? Well, I used to just click like this, but that's really slow. I'll show you an easier way. You just drag right through to noon, which is right there. And then if you look down at our audiences, there's our lookalike. 10% of the top 25 most engaged people, 21 million possible people. All right, so then I know you're not going to have this in your audiences that are saved, but watch me and try to replicate it if you have any way to do that, if you're already collecting pixel data. And then so what we're going to do here is now we want to remove United States as the location, and instead we want to only have this go to people who are in Logan Square in Chicago near Gaslight Coffee Roasters, because we don't want people in Minnesota receiving ads for a coffee shop in Chicago. So what we're going to do here is you're going to learn another skill, which is to add locations in bulk. So let's go ahead and click this option here, and then we're going to say post codes. And again, all this is in the study guide for you, so you don't have to do all this manually. Okay, so there are post codes. Let's say match locations. Yep, those look right, so let's add them. And then we're going to go ahead and save this audience. So let's save it. And then we'll say something like, Logan Square region engaged lookalikes. We'll save that audience. And we're not done quite yet. So we want to go to the editing placements. And we want to make sure that this only goes on Instagram. So under placements here, you can click edit placements. And then let's basically zoom out of all this stuff. No messenger. We only want this to be in the Instagram feed. All right, great. And you're going to see that this is showing that our audience is still potentially 140,000 people in those areas. And we can hit these people on Saturday morning as they're getting up and getting their day started with something that makes sense, like getting coffee and a donut, especially if you're in the United States and you get that stuff. People like sweet breakfasts. So then let's go over here to our ad, make sure everything is looking good. Yep, there's our ad. Pixel is on, we publish, and there's our ad. All right, now you're going to learn a lot of different skills by using some really important features in the platform. And we're going to start by basically looking at how product sets can help people choose. Sometimes when people have too many choices, it can be kind of overwhelming. And especially if you're in the e-commerce area, you want to help people make a choice. And using product sets is a great way to do that. We're going to be using that. We're going to be using offers and split testing all in this skills building module for you. So first, let's find an easel rule of 80 audience for people interested in digital marketing. So we're going to go here to the plan, audience insights. And it's interesting because we're going to go ahead and just leave the United States as our default location. But if you look at something like digital marketing and we go over to page likes, you're going to see that it's actually not a very well targeted area. Small Business Saturday, here's a pharmacy, here's a bank, here's National Geographic, and the affinity scores are pretty low. But if you X out of this one and instead we look at something like Neil Patel, who's a well-known digital marketing guy, you're going to see that this is much better targeted. Marketo, Digital Marketer, Amy Porterfield, Hootsuite, and the affinity scores are through the roof. So this is a much better interest for us to target. So next, let's go ahead and set up a split test with a product set. So we're going to remember Neil Patel and remember that a product set is a unique collection of your Facebook catalog inventory that you can promote with Facebook for Business ads. So now we're going to go back up to the menu option and we're going to go back to the ads manager where we're going to be setting up this split test with a product set. So let's create a new campaign here. And then you're going to see that all of this step-by-step guide is in the study guide. So you can go ahead and follow along with me. All right, so this is what our setup is going to look like. It's going to be called the Top 25 Lookalike versus Neil Patel Split Test. We're going to select our campaign objective to conversions, turn on the split test option, and then under our variable, we're going to select audience, and we're going to have 2. And then our ad sets are going to be called Top 25 Lookalike and Neil Patel Interest. And then we're going to save that to the draft. And now, as we start to move on, we're going to build your skills around another tool, which is the offers feature. So let's go to the 2 ad sets here. And then as we get started here in the ad sets, you're going to notice that we're going to create, we're going to select a custom conversion that we've set up. So you do need to have a custom conversion set up. So our conversion is going to be people who look at Easel's course catalog. That's a couple steps down in our site. So we'll set that up for the conversion. And then let's turn on the offer, select our page, and then we're going to create the offer. All right, so now we've gotten so far 10% off all marketing courses. It's a new year, new skills, and we'll leave this ending on January 31st. That's probably not that practical because mainly what we're doing is split testing here. But now I want to draw your attention to this URL. We're going to be building your skills around using UTM codes. UTN is Urchin Tracking Module, and that's basically a way for you to append a little bit of text, a little bit of extra characters to a URL so that you can enhance your tracking. And in the study guide, you're going to see a UTM builder link. So check that out and go there and let's build a UTM link. All right, so here we are at the UTM builder link that you have in the study guide. And you're going to see here some of the different parameters that I've put in. So here is our root URL. That's where we're going to drive the traffic. And our campaign source is going to be FB for Facebook, Medium, Social, and then this is going to be the campaign name. And I think that that is especially important because this is going to allow you to see where the traffic came from related to your particular campaign. And then in the campaign content, let's actually change this to offer. And then now you're going to see down here that we have this relatively long string. This is our URL. So let's copy that. And then we're going to put this into our offer URL. There's one code, sim series. And then we're going to go ahead and put the terms and conditions in here. And we'll click create. And then now we have our offer created. All right. And then we'll go down here and we're going to modify this a little bit. Let's change these to $100 for an even split. And we'll have the test end in just a few days. And let's end the test early. If a winning ad set is found, Facebook will basically send us a message saying, hey, we found out which audience won, and it might save us a little bit of money so we don't have to spend our entire budget. So now let's define our audiences. We'll go over here to define audiences to test. Let's click on our top 25 lookalike, go up to custom audiences, and then we're going to find our audience. There it is right there. It's something that we created a bit earlier in the course. Now let's click on Neo Patel interest. We will leave United States as the location, but in our detailed targeting, let's put Neo Patel. And we know he's a good example of somebody with an interest group that's very heavily concentrated around digital marketing. Now let's go up to our ads. So we're going to click on this one ad up here. All right, so now we're going to select ad with multiple images or videos in a carousel. And then instead of manually choosing images, let's say fill template dynamically from a product set. And then now we can see that we have the product set that we've set up here, which is the marketing courses. And then all we have to do is add our text, and you can find that in the study guide. And then now we need to add our image. So we'll just select our image, and then in the practice folder, it's going to be called product split test practice image. All right, great. Now we're going to add our headline, which is 10% off on all marketing courses. And then when we go down here to this see more URL, let's swap this out. I'm going to swap this out here too. And the thing I wanted you to notice is that we manually changed the content. In the content in the earlier UTM code that we created, the content was offer. But now we're going to change the content to see more so that we can see whether somebody generated the click from the offer or from the ad itself. And then all we're going to do is toggle our Facebook pixel on, and then we're going to publish. When you're selling expensive products and services, here's some examples: cars, real estate, expensive professional services, some business to business or B2B offerings. The first step is to get the contact information of people who are potential customers, because your sales cycle is probably going to be a little bit longer. This is perfect for the lead generation objective within Facebook for Business. And in my experience, we are usually able to get leads at Easel for higher end professional services for around $10 or $11 per lead, just to give you some kind of benchmark. So what we're going to be doing here is launching a lead ad on Instagram targeting wealthy moms. So how do we launch a lead generation campaign? Well, we're going to be working in the ads manager. So from the menu, we want to go to the create and manage column and go to the ads manager. And then we're going to be creating a new campaign. So we'll click create here. And then our campaign name is going to be female leads for the new Tesla launch. All right, so I've gone ahead and switched the campaign objective to lead generation. Our ad set name is going to be Wealthy Moms in San Francisco. You're going to notice here that we had to accept some terms related to leads. A lot of this is related to the new data privacy stuff that's going on in the digital marketing world. And our ad set name is going to be Tesla with Wings lead form. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and we're going to save to draft. All right, now click on the ad set here in the upper right-hand corner, and we're going to go down to audience, and we're going to change a few things. So here we are in the audience section. Let's eliminate United States as the location, and we're going to change it. So let's change it to San Francisco, and I'm going to help you build another skill here, and that is to calibrate the radius of your location anchor. So just to give you a sense of how you can use this, you can drag this anywhere down to something like 10 miles, which is more specific, but we're going to actually manually go in here and change this to 30 miles. So what that implies is that even though our location is set to San Francisco, we're really covering almost all of the Bay Area with this particular ad. All right, now let's keep building your audience targeting skills. We're going to be using some of the more fundamental elements of audience targeting here, like demographics, so let's switch the gender only to women, and I want you to practice along with me here so that you can build these skills. Let's change the age to 25 plus, so now this is going to be 25 to everybody over 65, and we're going to be using some of the detailed targeting, and I'm going to show you a couple of important details here. So let's add college grad here. All right, so I just want to point out a little nuance here. You're going to notice that by this college grad, it says education level here, whereas here says bachelor's degrees or higher, and that's interests. So these two characteristics live in different parts of Facebook's user data set. One of them is an interest. So that means that from whatever Facebook's algorithms have determined, somebody is interested in bachelor's degree or higher, whereas education level is probably matched from a third-party data source like TransUnion, or maybe the user said that they are a college grad on their profile, but we definitely want to be using the demographics area characteristics, not the interests area. So we'll go ahead and select college grad, and you'll see up here that we're in the demographics section, and that's where we want to be for this type of stuff rather than interests. And now let's go down, and we're going to be using some of these advanced features. So what we want to do is we want to narrow the audience. So if you notice that when we say narrow, that means that the audience is going to also match something else. Whereas if we exclude, that would mean that it's going to take away people who have a certain characteristic. For now, let's use this narrowing. So we're going to use this must also match. And so here what we're going to do is find parents. So again, if you just put in the word parent, you're going to get interest targeting. If you put in parents, you're going to get demographics targeting. We want to use demographics targeting here. All right, cool. So let's keep on moving on. All right, now we're going to build your skills with the placements again. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're only deploying this campaign to Instagram. And you're going to see by default, we can't deploy lead ads to Messenger or Audience Network. So we'll just go ahead and deselect Facebook. Now we're going to scroll back up to the top and click this one ad here as we keep building this campaign for your practice. And we're going to be choosing this type of creative, an ad with an image or a video. All right, now the image that you're going to want to use that's in the practice file folder is the lead generation Tesla image. And so I'm going to go ahead and clear this image, and I'll select the image. Since I've already uploaded it, you'll see, so here's one of those images. We're probably going to use this one since we're going to be deploying this on Instagram. So a square image is better for Instagram. You'll get more retail space or real estate in the network than if you have a landscape sized image. And with the text here, let's make it feel exclusive. So in this case, what we want to do is imply that there's something limited, that this is an exclusive offer because people are buying a really nice car. So the text that we're going to choose is the perfect balance of beauty and performance. The limited edition Tesla Model X will be available starting August 1st. That's something that I wanted to give you in this update of the Facebook and Instagram ads course, as opposed to the earlier version. So we're working more on your creative skills because that's a really important part of your success on the Facebook for Business network. All right, so next up, you're going to see that we landed here in the area where we need to create a lead form. So now let's build your skills, and I encourage you to follow along again, and you have all these different resources, creative elements in the study guide and in your practice folder. Let's create a lead form. So we're going to create a lead form, and let's use a new form. So in this case, we'll just go ahead and leave this at the more volume of leads, and then let's click intro here. And let's upload a better image than this, because by default this has cropped it kind of ugly. So let's go ahead and upload a different image. So this is going to be called Tesla image for form in the practice folder. And you're going to see that this is a landscape image. So now we've got a better looking image there, especially if you're selling something high dollar. You need to make sure that your stuff looks really good. All right, so we are going to put a headline in here, and you see we're going to offer people to sign up and receive a free Model X brochure if they opt in. And we wrote a little paragraph here that is honestly taken from Tesla's website. So this is kind of how they describe their product. And we're going to go ahead and select this questions option here. And we're going to add a custom question here if you would like to, but actually I take that back. Let's use one of their questions that they offer by default. And the only one that we're going to add is a street address. And now let's move on to the privacy policy. And you can go ahead and use the URL that is in the study guide here for the link text and the URL. All right, great. So now we've updated the link text and the URL. So now let's just go ahead and edit the thank you screen, because this is a nice place to leave people with a good feeling as they've just opted into a lead. So the main thing that I wanted to show you as the option here is the button text. So we always want to make this so that people feel like they're getting what they want if they click the button. So, oops, I'm going to go ahead and change this button text a little bit. So now the button says pre-order now, and we'll go ahead and save this and then finish. Great. And then now we have our lead form built. People can sign up. And we've got our Facebook pixel activated. We'll just click publish. And before we leave this particular lecture, I want you to be aware that at go.easel.co/FB2019, that's the link for the study guide, and that's the link here on the screen. You will be able to find a Toyota case study that shows how a lot of this stuff worked for them, and it has a few more metrics and things like that. Now, to wrap up, before we move on, there is an interesting feature related to leads, and that is how to collect your leads. So specifically, you can automatically have leads go from Facebook ads to a CRM system. For example, if you or your company uses Salesforce, that's an easy integration. So let's look at that for a second. All right, so what we want to do here, to find something, I want to show you. So let's go up here to this filters. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the different campaign delivery objectives. And we're going to pick the lead objectives. So there's lead generation. And if we add that, you're going to see that one of the campaigns that I ran came up. So we always want to select on the left the campaign that we want to be looking deeper into. And if you go in here, you're going to see that we have some different things that we tried out. And I want to show you something here. So this was a little lead experiment that I ran. And if you click here on, this is in the ads tab, this is a way where you can download your leads. So whenever you're trying to get the leads from your lead form, you want to go to the ads tab of the particular campaign that you've launched, and then you can download them manually. Or you will also see here that here's the link to connect your CRM or your customer relationship management system. If you have that integration available, if you already are using a recognized CRM system, and if you're running a lot of lead ads, then that's a way that you can connect your CRM into your Facebook for Business infrastructure. So if you wanted to download them, you could just download them there, and you'll get the information that you requested in your lead form. All right, I am excited to be working with you on the Facebook Canvas in this lecture. I think you're going to find it really fun. I'm going to teach you how to use this Facebook Canvas feature. It's a new feature, and it really enables you to create an immersive experience on the platform directly. So the Facebook Canvas is an instantly loading full screen experience that acts like an on-platform landing page. It can include videos, photos, text, links, and more. So what you'll need to create this canvas that we're going to be creating together, because it's much more creative than a typical ad, is you're going to need a short square video. And it's important that your key messages are delivered via text, not just the audio or the voiceover on the video, because a lot of people watch these videos with the sound off. We're also going to need a headline to introduce the product or service, 3 images that are related to key features that you want to talk to people about. 3 key features, whether it's a product or a service, a place, whatever it is that you're selling. And then you're going to want some text for below the carousel. And so we're going to be getting into all that now. And in the study guide, you're going to see that we have a lot of step-by-step instructions and also all of the files necessary for you to practice this with files that we've created for you that you can get via a link in the study guide. So we're going to be working in the Creative Hub. So in the menu under Plan, here's Creative Hub in the first column. All right, so we're going to be creating a mock-up, and then we're going to do this in Facebook. Let's do a canvas. So now we're going to select our page, easel. All right. All right, now to start, let's go here to this plus button next to this canvas link. All right, and you're going to see this is pretty flexible. You can add components manually, but we're going to be using something close to one of the layouts that Facebook already offers. So let's click Explore Layouts, and we're going to use the Showcase Your Business layout, Use Layout. This is great for showcasing a new place, a new product, a new service line, something like that. So it's a really good top of the funnel tool. So let's go ahead and name this, and we're going to name it the Easel Teaser Canvas. All right, so I'm going to say Easel Teaser Canvas. There's our name, version 2, because I've already created this as I built the learning experience that you're taking now. So let's replace the video. So click Replace Video, and I have already created a video. This is the video that you can use. It's in the practice files, and you're going to see there's the text. I just want to let this roll for a minute so you can see what we're looking at. There's Ira and Hannah and Louisa, some really cool easel students. So that's what's going to be our teaser video there. All right, so moving on, let's move down here to the text. This is so fun because it's so much more creative. Let me show you an example. So as you highlight this here and you click on the color, now we can use hex codes so that we can use our colors that are associated with our brand. So I'm going to actually replace this hex code here, and it doesn't look that different, but this is the easel navy that we use. And so I'm going to close that just to keep everything a little bit on brand. I love making things look great. And then let's go ahead and delete the first image. We just want to delete this whole widget here. So we go up to More Options, Delete. All right, now we're going to be adding custom images in this carousel. And in the practice folder, you can use images 1, 2, and 3 that are labeled Canvas Practice. So you'll probably see something like this. It's in this folder here, and there are your images. All right, so now you're going to see that we've replaced our images here, and we're going to add some text underneath it. This is Chris's son, another cool easel student. And so what we're going to be doing here is we're going to add some text and just finish this canvas, and we'll be done here in just a second. All right, so you're going to see here that now we've changed the destination URL here. So if people tap on any of these images, it will take them to this destination. If you wanted to add UTM codes here, you certainly could. We're going to go ahead and change this text here, and now it's reflected underneath there. And you can kind of see how the user experiences as they scroll through the different images. So even though you're on image 2, the text will stay the same here. And then just to build your skills, let's go ahead and practice modifying how some of this stuff is laid out. So we want to delete this button here, and then let's replace this photo with this image here. And that image is this easel arc logo. And then now let's add a component just so that we can build your skills. And let's add a product set. And let's just do all easel courses. Great. So now you can kind of see what that looks like. I love bringing back the things that we learned earlier in the learning experience. So let's go ahead and save it. And once you've built your canvas, you can always preview it, and it'll send a copy of a link to your mobile device, which is kind of fun. But let's go ahead and import this and actually launch it as an ad. So we're going to close this out, and we're going to go back here over to campaigns. And then so to move forward, let's just go ahead and use a campaign that we were using earlier, so we don't have to do so many steps, and we can build your skills around modifying campaigns and adding new ad sets and ad groups. Let's go ahead and select our Gaslight Saturday Morning Insta Special, and let's click on Ad Sets. Now let's go ahead and select the existing ad set, and then let's click Duplicate. And we'll leave it in the original campaign. Now, why did we duplicate this campaign? Because if you remember our placement for this campaign, this was our lookalike Instagram campaign earlier. Our placements are set only to include Instagram, and canvases are for Facebook users. So let's go ahead and select Facebook, eliminate Instagram. Great. Now let's go over and click over to these 3 ads. And then let's do view and edit. And if you don't have a new ad, then you can actually create a new ad. But let's go ahead and change this one to new canvas launch. And then we'll save it to the draft. Now let's deselect these 2 ads, and then let's practice editing. So now we're going to edit our new canvas launch. And if you go back over here to ad sets, you can see where the placements are. Facebook only, like we need for the canvas. All right, so now under create ad, we're going to leave it here at add with image or video. And then we're going to go ahead and select, yes, we want to add a full screen canvas. Let's remove this one. And then let's use an existing canvas, the canvas tutorial, which is the one that we just built. All right, so just to practice, let's clear our images here. We're going to go ahead and select our image, and let's use the animation image, which you saw teased there. And then here's the text that we want to use. You can find that in the study guide. All right, now we're going to add our headline, our schools like Easel the Future. Hopefully people will get kind of curious, and then they will open the canvas when they click on the ad. So that's the way that the canvases work. And I just want to let you know that in the study guide, you can see how Wendy's used a ad for the canvas teaser and kind of how they did their, how they blended canvas with ads. And that's in the study guide. You'll see that in the further resources link. So then all we're going to do is make sure our pixel is on, and then we'll publish it. And now our canvas is being advertised. Here's a use case. If you're ever running a promotion and you have traffic, like paid traffic, or maybe you have a customer list from something like a webinar that you've run, one of the best ways to convert people is through direct communication. And I actually think that customer service is one of the best areas to growth hack. This is an area that Easel teaches in growth hacking. And I know that customer service isn't always seen as the most, interesting area of a business, but it's a great way to get big fans and to get conversions. So here what we're going to do is we're going to actually do some remarketing with a human touch using a kind of innovative blend, which is to basically use Messenger as a remarketing tool. So first we're going to set up the remarketing campaign. So we're here in the menu under Create and Manage, and then let's go to the Ads Manager. And then let's create a new campaign. So our campaign name is going to be Promotion Messenger Remarketing, and then let's go to Messages. We're going to name our ad set Easel Newsletter Subscribers, but again, this is the way where you could use custom audiences, which you learned earlier in the course, to do things like upload the email list of people who attended a webinar. And then let's call our ad Messenger Promo Remarketing, and then let's save this to the draft. All right, so we would want to time this campaign towards the end of a promotional push. For example, maybe it's after the webinar, but just a certain amount of time after it so that the stuff is fresh in people's mind. So for example, you might want to set the end date of this campaign just a little bit before the end of a promotion, like maybe 12 hours before some promotion ends. So let's use lifetime budget. And that's going to be in our ad set. And remember, you can follow along with me in the study guide. We can do everything step by step together. So let's use a new feature. So we're going to go down here to optimization and delivery. And then let's set a bid cap. So for example, you might set the bid cap equal to whatever works for you. I would probably do something around maybe $3, but it depends on what you're selling. You know, I wouldn't want to bid more certainly than the value of a conversion, but you might want to make sure that you are just setting some bid cap so that you're not getting charged more than it's worth to deliver your ad to somebody, just so that you know that that feature is there. Now let's use another feature. And let's go under delivery type, and then let's do accelerated. Now, why might you accelerate the ads? Well, for example, let's say that there is some big event and you want to hit people right when they're thinking about the event. Like there's a really important television show or sports event. Well, you might want to accelerate the delivery of your ads so that you can get to those people right as they're thinking about it versus something that is delivered steadily over time. So now let's go and create the ad. So we're going to go back up here to add, and then let's use the ad with an image or a video. And we're going to be using the chat objective practice image here, which looks like this. And you're going to see we have a special format for Instagram. All right, so let's toggle or use this feature here, use a different image for Instagram. We'll use the square one just so that we get a more beautiful look in Instagram. It is optimized for the sort of portrait view, and we want to take advantage of that whenever we can. And then let's go ahead and put in the text. All right, now we're going to add in our text. Have any questions about Easel's brand new 2019 course catalog? Send our student support team a message. We're here to help. Tap to send Easel's student team a message, and all courses 20% off until Friday. And it'll look a little bit different depending on where you are seeing this. For example, the desktop news feed will look different than the Instagram feed, so you can always preview that stuff there. Now let's create a custom messenger template. So under messenger setup, let's go to create your own, and then let's leave it selected here at standard template, and then let's click edit. All right, so let's use our text greeting with something that's a little bit more appropriate. Hi Davis, what's your current professional goal? Let's keep this here at the frequently asked questions and just modify the different fields. If you want to, you can change this format by using a more custom option here, but let's go ahead and fill these out. And then we're going to save our changes here. I want to grow my business. I want to get promoted within my current company, or I want to make a career change. So let's go ahead and save that. And then now we're ready to publish. And before we leave this module, I just want to let you know that there's a technology company that advertised customer service through Messenger. They would put links like pay your bill here and things like that. And they had a major increase in customer satisfaction and many more conversions. And there's a case study related to that in the study guide if you want to get deeper into how to use Messenger and kind of growth hack through customer service.
All right, I know that that's not easy. It's a little bit technical, and I congratulate you on building your skills. By building your intuition, next time it's going to be easier and easier and easier, and you're going to be more and more effective. So there are 3 key takeaways that I want you to take away during this wrap-up module from this section. So the first one is that I want you to remember that the objective that you choose is really important, because one of the benefits to Facebook ads is that when you choose traffic, there's a whole engine going on behind your ad that's trying to find users who are likely to click. When you choose something like promoting a Messenger ad, who uses Messenger? Well, Facebook is going to use their internal data to promote those ads to people that use Messenger. So the objective that you choose is very important. Now, there are 3 key features that are all determined within the ad set. That is the geography that you use. It's also when your ads are delivered. Remember, you need a lifetime budget to determine that your ads are only delivered on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. because you're selling pancakes, for example. For all you non-Americans, I don't know what your sweet breakfast treat is, but in America, pancakes at 8 a.m. on Saturday are very popular. And then the third thing that I want you to remember about this stuff is that remember Clem Whitaker and Leon Baxter, those famous political consultants from the 20th century in the United States, the people who got governors and presidents elected, remember that they said that you need to get somebody's attention 6 times before you have their vote? Well, how are you going to use these combinations of objectives to bring people in your funnel, in the top of the funnel to start, and to maybe convert them with a second campaign, right? That's the way that we need to be thinking here. So, next up, what we're going to be looking at is the CRED system, C-R-E-D, that we've developed for helping you have a framework for scaling your ads. So that's in the next section. How can you take something that's working at a small level and make it work at a big level?